Oh hi and happy new year. Depending on how quick you are to click on this video, it's 2025 and how fun are the healers for you and why do you think Holy Priest is in S tier? It's such a touchy subject considering that healers is such a punishing role to play with all of the issues that healers have been plagued over the last, I don't know, half year, maybe half year for myself and people who have tested it in the beta that have fallen out of love with a lot of the healers. So how do they stand up at the end of season 1? Not quite the end, but it's getting there. And how fun are they in general? Let's check it out. Starting it off with Resto Shaman, I would have put this all the way up into S tier, but I have played a little bit more and I do have to say that it gets a little bland, and it is one of my favorite healers. It is usually one of the healers that I default to whenever I want to obviously, you know, have a reliable source of healing for my friends in a group, if I want to push content in any way, and I might end up playing this a lot more in season 2 than I might want to admit. More on this later. But until then, I do have to say I like the Shaman class design in general, and it definitely reverberates throughout Resto Shaman as well, and the hero talents are doing a pretty good job at keeping it interesting and fresh, and I kind of really like what it's doing with the spec. But overall, in terms of gameplay, it's more or less the same. You might change a couple of interactions of the spells, you might optimize a chain heal more or a riptide more, but that's not unlike anything you have done in the last couple of expansions. That doesn't mean it's necessarily bad, but it is slightly getting boring and old. It's not bad. I will still put it into A tier. I will always love Resto Shaman. It will always be one of my favorite healers of all time. Moving on to Discipline Priest, boy oh boy. If Marcelian would be doing this particular ranking, you would see a different ranking altogether. I don't particularly dislike Discipline Priest. It is a very, very fun healer. I will put it all the way into A tier. I don't know if it's going to be in front or behind Resto Shaman. First of all, I think in terms of design, Discipline Priest is more interesting than Resto Shaman. In terms of gameplay, it's a little bit more engaging, but in terms of class fantasy and reliability for me, I really like Resto Shaman a little bit more. Obviously, Discipline Priest is the premier healer to push Mythic Plus content in this season. It's decent in raids. I don't know if it's the best healer in raids overall, but you know, we're talking about the high peak performance when it comes to analyzing the HPS output and, you know, reliability of a Discipline Priest, which has cooldowns pretty much on par with Resto Shaman, you would say. I don't think there's a more reliable healing cooldown than Spirit Link, probably. I mean, pain suppression is better than most of what Restoration Shaman can bring, but Spirit Link just saves people outside of super niche situations. But overall, I feel like Discipline Priest loses a little bit to Resto Shaman in the hero talent department, although Void Weaver is fucking peak priest design. Oracle just falls flat. Like, to be fair, before getting to this point, I totally forgot that Oracle was actually a hero talent that Priest had, and now I remembered why I forgot. It can go burn before it lays any eggs, okay? And that's probably why I'm going to put it a little bit behind Restoration Shaman. Holy Paladin is such a cope, bro. I feel like Holy Paladin made me realize I might be a little bit messed up in the head, okay? Because I like Holy Paladin, and if you really analyze Holy Paladin's design and tuning, you might come to the conclusion that there is something wrong with my personal head, and I don't know how to reconcile with that fact, because Holy Paladin is just poorly designed for Mythic Plus as a spec, and I'm going to trash on it while putting it into S tier. Take that, Restoration Shamans and Discipline Priests. Having to rely solely on your cooldowns is very inconsistent when it comes to just playing in the general sense of things. It might be fine if you're playing with a pre-made group, but obviously we're not ranking the fun of a spec in a pre-made group, although that definitely does help because you'll inadvertently end up playing with pugs. And, you know, that obviously applies to me since I'm the one ranking them. And having to rely on your cooldowns with pugs is very inconsistent and dangerous because outside of your cooldowns, you just don't do almost anything, and I'm not really a fan of that style of gameplay. On the other hand, Holy Paladin is so brain crazy that if you do manage to get your cooldowns right, holy shit, do you ever feel like a paladin that's saving your party? And that's probably the biggest thing that has pulled me towards this healer as being my default healer of the first season, because I just love being this big plate savior with a shield that goes into the thick of the action and just, oh, you're dying, you're saved. Oh, you're dying, you're saved. Haha. I am the champion of my party. That's basically Holy Paladin. And even with its very inconsistent and pretty poor design to match the content that you're doing, and mostly Mythic Plus because that's where I play most of my healers, I still really enjoy Holy Paladin. And I do have to love the button mashing. Holy Priest has been a back and forth healer for me for a long years. I never really got behind its design in terms of fun. I'm trying to think of it. I don't think it's badly designed. If anything, it might be, I want to say, better designed for Mythic Plus than Holy Paladin, but I don't think so because Holy Paladin just has more tools in general. Holy Priest just has quite a lot of buttons, and it had the most amount of buttons close to Resto Shaman for a long time, but as opposed to Restoration Shaman, most of the Holy Priest buttons are actually rotational buttons, whereas with Resto Shamans there are cooldowns and utilities. So you take the bloat, if you want to call it a bloat, and if you swap it to the rotation, then it gets a little bit frisky with Holy Priest, and that kind of takes away a little bit of strength from individual spells when you have just so many that you have to fit in, or at least that's how I feel when I play Holy Priest. It's not a bad healer, but I do feel like I lack particular tools for particular scenarios. I do feel like there's a lack of versatility, and this is very important for me as a healer. Having the immunities that Holy Paladin brings, or the combat flexibility of a Resto Druid, which we will get to in a second, definitely feels like a kind of like a loss for me. So I will actually put, I want to put it into C tier. I'm gonna be honest with myself. Holy Priest is probably one of the last healers I would play, almost. And that's just because it doesn't bring anything interesting. I feel like the design of Holy Priest is on the cusp of something incredible. I feel like they should just go more into the spirit healer angel part fantasy of Holy Priest. They just need to do more with that, which Discipline kind of has with Ultimate Penance. I feel like although that is a Discipline thing, I want to see more of that with Holy Priest. Embrace the fantasy of being an angel, which, I mean, that is the icon of it. Well, it's the icon of a spirit healer, but you know, it's white and it has white wings, so it has to be an angel, right? Mistweaver has been a very happy find for me in the last week or so. And I'm saying fine like I haven't played it before, but I have obviously played it in beta. I've tested all the healers. And Mistweaver is just, dude, I don't... So this was the biggest surprise that I had going into this video and testing all of these healers, because I did not expect this. Okay, well, boy oh boy, when it comes to gameplay, do you ever have a lot of fun with Mistweaver? And to be fair, as a Holy Paladin player, I've talked with other Holy Paladin players, and as a Resto Druid player, I've talked with other Resto Druid players. There has been no Mistweaver player that has not agreed that it has a really fun gameplay. You can find different levels of Holy Paladins that are like, dude, I just don't vibe with this change, or dude, I kind of miss something else, or dude, I just don't like it. I'm playing it, but I just don't like it. But Mistweaver, holy shit, like, is the community meeting in secret behind the scenes, I don't know, in Goldshire, and thinking, dude, we like Mistweaver, don't we? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. That feels like, and it's just so fun. Like, I don't know what it's happening, but it's crazy. And the fact that the changes coming into the ancient teachings, which has had a bunch of iterations over the years, makes fist weaving so much more interesting. I do feel like if you don't like fist weaving, it doesn't really feel like you have a lot of alternatives. Since fist weaving seems to be in pretty much all of the builds, I personally enjoy it. I like going into melee and punching and kicking things. Obviously, since Holy Paladin is the other S tier healer here. But in terms of like just gameplay word, cooldown usage, pop-ups, procs, throughput, holy, that was very fun. I had probably the most amount of fun definitely at this point with Mistweaver. Preservation Evoker is one of those specs that I hate that I like it type thing. I do hate that I like it. It's very fun. I feel like I'm embarrassed to be seen playing an Evoker. It's kind of like a meme here, okay? I'm exaggerating, of course. It's not that bad. It's fun. I want to put it into A tier, but I feel like it's a little... I probably don't play it enough to put it into A tier. And I have seen so few preservations Evoker that I just don't know what they're doing anymore. But I've had the most amount of time playing Flame Shaper whenever I was testing it on beta. I didn't play a lot of Preservation since, and I loved it. I just didn't really see a lot of this being done out there. Maybe because all of the Evokers are augmentation. I think this is just a problem with how performance is skewed for Evoker in general, and since I'm not pushing high-end content with healers, I wouldn't know exactly how this feels, and since most high-end content pushers are either Discipline Priests, Holy Paladins, Resto Shamans, or things like that, you kind of never really see a Preservation. But overall, in terms of gameplay, it is really fun. I feel like it lacks a little bit in terms of class fantasy, as with Shaman and Discipline Priest, that they would have for me, and that's where it's ranked a little bit lower. I do believe that it has more interesting hero talents than Priest, than probably even Shaman, and that does a lot of heavy lifting, but it's still a bare bones healer, and I do feel like the very strict requirement of people being not only stacked but very close to you definitely takes away some of the fun. It can be cool if you main a Preservation Evoker and you get used to it and you work around it, but whenever you're playing something, oh, I just want to have some fun, I'm just gonna pick up an ult and heal a little bit, I feel like Preservation doesn't deliver with that, because it takes way too much practice to do something that just other healers just do by the sheer nature of them being there. No other healer has to think of, oh, is everybody stacked? I guess, you know, maybe Restoration Shaman kind of wants that a little bit, but not like Preservation Evoker. And I feel like that takes away a little bit from it, and it might always be something that is very specific to Preservation, let's say, and like an acquired taste, if I can call it that. But if you don't main it, it's definitely gonna feel like a crutch at the beginning anyway. Restoration Druid. This is so fucking complicated, bro. The Restoration Druid would be my other default healer as opposed to Resto Shaman, that has taken a little bit of a dip in the War Within. I don't know where I'm gonna rank it, so I have to go through my thoughts right now and we'll see, because it's either S tier or A tier, so we'll see how this plays out in the end. First of all, I love the fantasy of Resto Druid. It's one of my all-time favorite healers. I love the fantasy of being able to shift into a particular form that will solve a particular issue in combat. And I mentioned this before, that it has a lot of combat versatility, aka if I have to soak a lot of damage for some reason, I can go Bear. It's not fun because I cannot heal my party while in Bear, but it is an option that I have that no other healer has, maybe with the exception of Bubble for Holy Paladin, where you just press a big defensive that you cannot really do much in, although, you know, Paladin does way more in Bubble than Resto Druid does in Bear. I can actually do damage. What damage? Well, both damage. I can go into a cat form and just do melee damage. I can go into... Actually, no, they took away Boomkin form. Oh my god, I just remembered. Oh, fuck. This messed up my keybind so bad, because I used to have all of my damage abilities on my Balanced Druid bar, which doesn't exist anymore because you don't have Moonkin form anymore. This has been probably the biggest sacrilege that happened to Resto Druid, at least in my eyes, since I could access the individual shapeshift affinity spells through each shapeshift's bar, but now there's no more Boomkin bar, so I just have to do it in caster form. I know they have had a reason for this. I don't like it. Okay, I know where I'm gonna put this. Not to mention that on top of all of this, Druid just has massive problems in its class talent tree and its design in general. Although the playstyle is probably one of the best, very close to Mistweaver in terms of how fun it is, I do feel like its design is just very wonky. It has the clunkiness of Holy Paladin with a worse class tree and an even worse, let's say, rework option when they've lost Balanced Druid form. I think they just need to rework Druid, and, you know, I'm recording this a little bit ahead of time, by the way, so by the time you see this or it launches, we might have some announcement for 11.1, which I'm hoping that it would include a Druid rework, and if it does and it brings back Moonkin form, then this could probably pop into S tier for me. We'll tackle that once it goes live, but until then, it's just where it is right now. Obviously, these are very mixed opinions, and it is what I believe is the most fun, but I am curious, what is the most fun healer for you guys, because everybody just has some wild opinions about certain healers, especially in this season when it's so difficult to heal. I can probably respect people's opinions a little bit more, since if you can play your S tier healer in this season, then you get my vote, brother. So let us know in the comment section below, and also check this video out once you're done, because there's no shortage of Marcelian Online content on Marcelian Online on YouTube. Happy New Year.